Welcome to the Danny Clinkscale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Insightful and witty commentary, probing interviews, and detours from the beaten path.
Welcome to Monday Musings-Danny's SportsWrap. Right before I started this, I sprayed my hands with my little spray bottle that has rubbing alcohol in it, and that was to sanitize my hands. And why did I think to do it right then? Because I had just reached up and scratched my eye. And you're not supposed to touch your face these days, something that in an article I read recently, experts say that human beings were doing 23 times an hour before they went through this coronavirus situation. It's just the unbelievable changes that we have to go through and try to work through and try to embrace to make ourselves better in the end, and maybe in the end we'll learn some things that will be of benefit down the line. I know, for instance, when I developed back problems a couple of years ago, one of the things that was suggested when I went online and researched what to do, stretches, all different things, was to stop crossing your legs. Other things were like don't sit on your wallet, etc. But anyway, stop crossing your legs. Something I had done for virtually my entire life, either with my one leg sort of sitting on the other one or with left leg over right. In retrospect, I can see where that would put some strain on the right side of your back, so I stopped doing it. It took a while, but now it's completely natural. I never even think about crossing my legs. Perhaps we will have those type of situations in our lives. I don't know what the benefit down the line is of not scratching your face anymore, but certainly it's what we're supposed to do now. These are things we never had to think about before. These are things we hopefully won't have to think as much about in the future, but right now that's the reality. And here on Monday Musings, Danny's SportsWrap, we'll be talking about some things that maybe we never even would have thought to talk about before, because in reality, almost entirely the only real news in the world of sports comes from the NFL, and even that is pretty bone dry right now. But we'll have some fun with some different things, talk about our life situations right now, and try to put a smile on our faces, something that is really difficult right now because the news grows grimmer by the day, and we are not seeing the other side of the mountain yet. We will, but we are not seeing it yet. And let's hope we can find ways to at least make things bearable as we move along, and we'll have some fun coming up next, right here. We're here with Joe Spiker, the president of Easton Roofing. And Joe, you worked for other companies in the construction industry. What inspired you to start your own company in Easton Roofing?
Well, you know, Danny, when you are working for somebody else, you oftentimes don't get to see the project through from beginning to end, and you don't get the final control over the customer experience. And I wanted to build a place where people can come and get work done on their house and not have to worry about being treated the wrong way, and get a good customer service experience start to finish.
The company slogan is "Where Integrity Matters." Why is that so particularly important to you?
Well, for us, what that means is treating each other with respect at work, treating our clients with respect, and making the right choice, especially when no one's looking. So when you're presented all the time as a contractor with choices that have to be made, are you going to make more money on this if you cut a corner? And we just wanted to make a place and a slogan that said to our people and to whoever is our customer, we're not going to do that. We're going to make the right choice regardless of profit.
Easton Roofing, where integrity matters.
Cinematic Visions has been an affordable solution for professional media production in Kansas City since 2003, offering award-winning video production and creation, as well as a wide array of digital and social media management services. From planning, scripting, filming, editing, and post-production, to delivering your product to a watching world, Cinematic Visions will provide professional and affordable services for you and your business with the necessary return on investment to make it all worthwhile. Cinematic Vision's goal is to unlock the power of storytelling through video and a strong online presence for your company. Beyond the numbers, they want to inspire and evoke your clients to feel and act. Let my friends at Cinematic Visions embed your brand where it belongs, in your customers' minds. You can find them online at cinematicvisions.com or with a quick phone call at 816-600-6300.
Hey everyone, this is Matt Llewellyn from 23rd Street Brewery, wishing you well while you stay safe during this time of uncertainty. Due to the recent news, you won't be able to get the same in-restaurant experience at the 23rd Street Brewery that you've come to expect over the past 16 years. But you can get the same delicious items prepared with the highest level of staff cleanliness available for carryout and delivery through our partners Eat Street. You can also still enjoy our craft beers and crowlers for to-go service. So remember, stay safe, and together we will all get through this time of uncertainty.
If you'd like to join these and other great sponsors and market your business to a growing and engaged audience, contact us at danny@dannyclinkscale.com. Look forward to hearing from you.
Well, we just passed a weekend where you got to think about doing a lot of things that you really don't necessarily want to do, but you have to do them, and now you have the time to do them. And one of my tasks this weekend was to clean my office and my closet, which is off my office, which has all my clothes in it, and it's a pretty lengthy process because my office was anything but tidy, to say the least. My wife is somewhat of a neat freak, and she barely can walk into my office, but she can now because I spent a few hours cleaning it up over the weekend. But other things were taken up that I normally wouldn't do. Yesterday, about to have lunch, I remembered, in fact, that NASCAR was showing the iRacing on Big Fox, on the regular Fox network. So I flipped it on, and immediately it was stunning. It looked almost completely real. And I think one of the things that is an advantage, it's basically a video game look, but there's no people involved in it except the crowd, which was probably one of the things that looked the least realistic. But the cars are just big block vehicles. When you watch any other sports video game, there are people there, and they have sophisticated movements. Human beings have sophisticated, smooth movements, and they're not quite replicated in video games. They're great, and they're pretty close, but they don't really look like human beings in the way that they actually move 100%. Maybe 85%. They've gotten better and better. They look great. They're fun to play. But when it's just cars moving around, and the quality is there, and the HD is there, it was really fun to watch. And I almost watched from the time I tuned in, and it had already started. I watched the rest of the race. I don't think I've watched that much NASCAR. I'll watch the end of races. I'll watch some racing. I like the racing, but I don't sit there and watch an entire race ever. And I watched the rest of the event, won by Timmy Hill, and most of the best competitors were from the virtual world of racing, and Denny Hamlin won last week, and this week there were some guys who were there, and they made it an entertaining product. Clint Boyer broadcasting while it was going on, and he didn't have a very effective week behind the wheel, so that made it kind of even a little bit more funny. But that's probably maybe one of the, if not the most creative things we've seen done so far in the world of sports, and it allows the personalities that are the stars to come there. It allows other people to become stars, and it really was kind of refreshing. I don't know how much of it I'll watch subsequently. You just are willing to try new things, and that was one thing I tried. There's other things just equally as absurd. I was watching SportsCenter yesterday, and my wife is an inveterate dog lover. We have 2 dogs. I like them. I perhaps even tilt toward loving my dogs, but not the way my wife does about all dogs. Anyway, there was a British play-by-play announcer for the BBC. You likely have seen this by now. And he did about a 2-minute play-by-play of his 2 dogs in a eating competition out of their puppy bowls. And it is hysterical. If you can find it, just put BBC announcer describes dogs eating, and you'll very much enjoy it, using all the phraseology that you would in a regular play-by-play. Very, very funny. Other things to pass the time away? It was Saturday morning, and Saturday and Sunday morning, what do I like to do when life is normal? I like to go down and have a nice long workout and watch soccer, which to me is a wonderful sport for working out to, because you're guaranteed to get 45 plus minutes of uninterrupted, no commercial sports action, which is great. And then I enjoy the commentary as well. But I have a couple of the other games that were set for Saturday and Sunday DVR, and I'll be watching those, I think, during the week. But I, for the life of me, couldn't understand that the one I watched while I was working out, I mean, NBCSN and NBC has been broadcasting the Premier League for years now. Okay, so they have the rights to that product. So they can pick out any games they want to show. And the Premier League themselves were showing 30-minute highlight packages. That was on Saturday. Sunday was when they were showing the full games from NBC. And those were fun, and they're from way, way back. So I watched a game from 2008, and I had no idea, of course, who won, and that was fun. But yesterday's entertainment, quote-unquote, for me, was a Manchester City-Liverpool game. I think it was from either earlier this year or early last year. And Liverpool had a man sent off. Manchester City won at least 5-0. I didn't watch the end because I didn't care anymore. And when it was 2-0 and it was 3-0, I thought to myself, they must be showing this game because there's some miraculous comeback by Liverpool with only 10 men. And it was not to come. It was just a flat-out, unmitigated blowout. And for the life of me, I will never be able to understand why they were showing that game. Now, much more reasonable an idea to show a game, and in this case, listen to a game, was Westwood One trotting out some great games, and Sports Radio 810 WHB, late on Saturday, I believe it was playing the national championship game from 2008, a game that I was at, as a matter of fact, and the Westwood One broadcast, really fine broadcast. Kevin Kugler with Bill Raftery and John Thompson, and that was a lot of fun to listen to, and that coincided with my therapeutic drive that I take at the end of the day. Yesterday's drive came at the time when there's a podcast that plays on the Comedy Channel, the Comedy Greats on satellite radio, that Gilbert Gottfried, the comedian, does. I've never been a fan of Gilbert Gottfried's work or comedy, but his podcast is great. He has a great co-host, and they have interesting people who come on and talk about things. And yesterday was Jason Alexander of Seinfeld fame. And usually I will drive around for 25 minutes or so, and maybe I have one small errand to do. Well, I ended up driving around for about 75 minutes around Kansas and enjoying the vistas and the sunshine and everything else, and stopping occasionally and walking around, leaving the radio going. And that was another thing that I did. But we embrace all kinds of things. What's a big viral thing that's going on right now? A beer pong competition. I spent a lot of time writing a blog, a 2-part blog that'll come up on Tuesday and Thursday about broadcasting, so you can look forward to that. And, this is all under the context of the fact that we are trying to fill our days, be socially distant, or just completely remotely removed from everybody. And my wife and I are doing quite a good job of that. Fortunately for me, she wants to do virtually nothing that has even close to any contact with people. So if there is any errand whatsoever to do, I get to do it. And I say get to do it because I'm happy to do it. I want to do it. It gets me out of the house a little bit. And places are really very sparsely populated. If you're going to the grocery store or the hardware store, which is about the only 2 places I've been, picked up flowers one day to plant. And people are in my purview now, finally, I think, doing a pretty good job of socially distancing. I'm not going to say they're doing a great job, but the best part of it is that there's just not many people at the grocery store or the hardware store. So it's very easy to stay away from people, and I think on the whole we are doing a much better job of that. One thing that impacted me over the weekend that I figured was going to happen, my wife and I are big fans of the band The Mavericks. We've seen them now, I think, the last 6 or 7 times they've come to Knuckleheads to perform. Fantastic and enjoyable concerts, the best party you can ever have at a concert, if not the best music, and it's good music, believe me. Well, that concert was scheduled for May 9th, and I was, at first when this happened, I'm like, well, that's about 6 weeks down the road, 7 weeks down the road. Maybe we'll be on the other side of this thing then. I never really thought that was the case, and now it is clearly not. That concert is now moved to September 26th, and all kinds of things like that are being moved, many in the world of sports, many outside the world of sports, and many things are just flat out being canceled. And all the discussions about when we are going to start playing again and what we are going to do are such a moving target. And nobody's setting dates unless they're dates way, way out in the future. And that's part of what we'll talk about when we turn to more sports-specific things coming up next. There isn't much out there, folks, as far as sports-specific things, but there are a few things and a few comments I have about how other people are trying to fill up our time and maybe a little less successful than I hope I am right now. And I hope your weekend provided at least some smiles, be it a viral video or going out in the yard and raking leaves, which I did yesterday, getting some sunshine. At least we had good weather, and I hope that your weekend was a good one. And as we move forward in sports, we'll get a little speculation as to what might be coming up. A little speculation. There's not much, and we'll give it a go for part 2 coming up next right here on Monday Musings, Danny Sports Wrap.
More of Danny's Reasonably Irreverent podcast after this.
My friends at Advanced Sports and Family Chiropractic and Acupuncture are among the most accomplished and trusted clinics in the nation. Only one clinic has been rated in the top 5 in all 3 categories of chiropractic care, acupuncture, and rehabilitation, and that clinic is ASFCA. They have locations in Olathe, Overland Park, Prairie Village, Belton, and Lee Summit. Doctors Brad and Christina Woodle and their accomplished team of doctors and therapists will treat you like family, for the simplest of injuries to the most complicated conditions to avoid surgery. Whether you are seeking treatment for an injury or just looking to stay healthy and fit, this is the place for you. And it's been the place for me for almost 2 years now. I've been a strenuous daily exerciser for years, and as time goes on, that takes its toll. But regular appointments at Advanced Sports and Family Chiropractic and Acupuncture have helped keep me ticking on, and even as the years pile up, their regular care has allowed me to keep to my regimen and feel great. If you want to feel the same, give them a call or visit them at asfca.com/Danny. They accept all insurances and are open Monday through Saturday, and make sure to mention that Danny Clinkscale recommended Advanced Sports and Family Chiropractic and Acupuncture. Are you thinking of starting a new business? Does your current business feel stuck? Or are you just trying to grow what you already have? Running a business is a lot of work, and it takes the right team to make it all happen. If you're looking to grow your business, call my friends Ben and Greg over at Fuego Consulting. They put together a company that can help you reach your business goals. Whether you're looking to get online, build a social media strategy, or rebrand your business, they can help. Call Fuego at 816-663-9695 or visit them online at fuegoconsulting.com. Fuego Consulting. Let's grow your business together. We're visiting with Larry Marshall, former Chiefs defensive back and punt returner and now a Chiefs ambassador. Larry is a former pro football player with the aches and pains that come with that, and moving on in age as we all are. What do the Canaway CBD products do for you?
It's been a great relief for me. Being a punt and kickoff returner, collisions were a mainstay of my career, and these Canaway products, the salve especially, has really helped me try to get through every day with the aches and pains that I've had over a career of 7+ years in the NFL.
I get similar benefits as well, particularly with my back. Certainly wasn't a football player. What's the best way for our listeners to get more information about the great products themselves?
Well, I'm so enthused about it, Dana. If they just contact me at larrymarshall.canaway.com, and I can give them all the information they need to help them get through the day as well.
Start gaining all the benefits that Larry and I do from the trusted and reliable line of Canaway products. As Larry said, visit larrymarshall.canaway.com and get information on all the great products from Canaway.
For many people, a family law case will be one of the most difficult experiences in their life. The law firm of Kenneth McRae will help you through it. Personal and effective help from Ken in concert with you will develop a unique strategy for your unique case. As Ken always says, divorce can be civil law, not civil war. Licensed in Kansas? Visit McRaeLawOffice.com or call 913-972-4765.
If you'd like to join these and other great sponsors and market your business to a growing and engaged audience, contact us at Danny@DannyClinkscale.com. Look forward to hearing from you. Welcome back to Monday Musings, Danny Sports Wrap, and as I mentioned before, not a heck of a lot of hard news as far as sports is concerned. Probably the biggest bit of news is that the Olympics has a date starting in July of next year, late July. Heaven knows, we hope we're long since past this situation, or at least are adjusting to what it will be like with this hanging over us. I think there's always going to be a thought that there's going to be little pockets of the coronavirus coming back slightly, and you probably have to still take precautions and do different things. And I think there may be just a natural culture of a little bit of social distancing or making sure you're doing things in a careful way. But the Olympics, and that's a shame for everyone, but the good news is that all of the athletes who had qualified for the Olympics will have their qualification held up. Now, there was a lot of qualification that had not been done, but at least for those who had qualified, who maybe a year down the road would have more difficulty qualifying, being another year older, or maybe they just peaked at a perfect time and qualified and would have to do that again. So 6,200 athletes are in as far as that is concerned. Many other leagues are looking at alternatives to how they are going to either conclude their seasons or start them up. Baseball came to agreement on financial things last week. They haven't started up, so they will have to come up with a plan, and they will be able to come up with a plan that is about the entirety of their season. In leagues like the NBA, which is huge here, obviously, and the Premier League, which is huge in soccer, are talking about clustering. And clustering is the hot word right now as far as these leagues, which have played much of their seasons, but not all of their seasons, will try to conclude them. And the idea comes from China, where the basketball league over there is clustering their teams, their 20 teams, they haven't quite finished their regular season as well, into 2 cities in the case of China. And there's no players association for that league, so they just can order people to do whatever they want. And they still, even though they have come up with this plan, and even though by their account they are basically not getting new cases of the coronavirus, they still haven't got this up and running, and it doesn't look like they can get it up and running for months now. Not weeks, but maybe a couple of months still. And that's in a country where they have flattened the curve, and we have not done that yet. But the talk in England that the NBA, I think, is embracing now is that the Premier League will take all of their teams. They have 20 teams, and they have 8 or 9 games left in the season out of their 38-game season. And the champion is absolutely going to be Liverpool if they decide there will be a champion, and I think they will because Liverpool is so far ahead they're going to win. That all the teams will be clustered in maybe 4 or 5 locations in the Midlands of England, far away from the major metropolitan areas like Liverpool and London and Manchester, and play the games there, out in the country per se. Now, England is a remarkably dense country, and there isn't that much area where there aren't quite a few people, but by their standards anyway, sort of more in a rural area like would be here. Well, the NBA is not going to do that, but what they need to do is have a situation, and the players apparently aren't really thrilled with this particular idea, is take 4 or 5 cities probably in the Midwest area and maybe smaller cities, maybe even Kansas City, even though it's not an NBA city, I don't know, but places where there's no air travel needed. Players would be placed in hotels and maybe play in 4 and 5 locations without fans. This is the conversation now to try and complete the season. And then maybe China's talking about this. England, I don't think so. I think their season is probably going to be played out. Soccer season is going to be played out without fans. That would be my guess. But in China, they're talking about finishing the regular season without fans, and maybe by that point they can have fans for the postseason. Maybe that's the NBA's model right here, to perhaps have, I don't know, if they're going to use NBA cities, you wouldn't think they'd want to use huge cities like Chicago. I don't know. That's where the problems are the greatest. But maybe smaller cities like Omaha or Kansas City or Oklahoma City, that certainly has potential as areas where you can play 3 or 4 games, then bus to another location, stay in a hotel, play the games out. That is the conversation right now. Well, just before I did this podcast, I was looking, besides the stuff I can talk about in my own life, like driving around and raking leaves and musing as to why they're showing blowout soccer games when they have many great ones to choose from. I was looking for regular sports topics, so I watched Get Up, the start of it, because I said, okay, that's where the headlines are going to be. Well, they spent the first 12 to 15 minutes talking about the fact that Cam Newton hasn't been signed yet. Even with the NFL situation going on as normal with their league calendar, most of the big free agents have signed. It's the only news in town. How often can you talk about Tom Brady? Well, often, because they were doing it. And 15 minutes of Cam Newton was too much for me, so I tried flipping over to the Golf Channel, and they were showing the old big break shows. And boy, those are not high-quality operations. I think the Golf Channel, desperately looking for content, probably doesn't feel that great about trotting out the production value that they had on the big break, and I really couldn't last very long with that. So anyway, I went back, and one of the things that happens when you're talking about sports, and it happens in a lot of these programs anyway, even during regular times, is the discussion point on this Get Up program with Mike Greenberg and Dan Orlovsky and Swagoo, their sort of sports comedy team, as it were. And so the topic was, and it was a takeoff from Mike Greenberg, who did a commentary about Tom Brady and Bill Belichick, and which person was the one who was most responsible for the success. And by the numbers, it was a heavy lean toward Tom Brady. He had won 6 playoff games when his team had given up 28 points or more. Nobody else had done it more than twice. So the general consensus of the piece was that in most cases, a great coach needs a great generational player or two in order to be great. Well, that was the assessment of Mike Greenberg, and then in the end, all 3 of them agreed with that assessment. I did think of an exception. Vince Lombardi presided over a dynasty-type team, and he really didn't have a greatest of all-time type player. He had a lot of great players. Obviously, you're not going to win without great players, but I mean, his star quarterback was Bart Starr. Nobody really considers him one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. When he's in any particular list of that, it's because he won so much, and there's certainly a lot to be said for that. And in the end, he's probably a slightly underrated player, not an overrated one. But I thought about that particular example. But anyway, my point here is that these 3 people on this panel show, and of course, in keeping with where we are now, Mike Greenberg was the only one in the studio, and the other 2 were FaceTiming. They basically all agreed that you need a great generational player to have a dynasty, and that the player or players is far more important than the coach, even in football, which is the only sport where this topic really comes up. In most other cases, even if people are considered great coaches, it's the players who get most of the attention. Only in football, where we consider the head football coach the most important of the head football coaches in all sports, and I think many people would agree with that. I think basketball, you could come up with an argument. But anyway, so they all basically agreed. And they all spent about an entire segment arguing while agreeing, which was frustrating to me to the point where I ended my workout and walked away. But this is where we're at, that you need to fill time. And even with 3 men who basically agreed on the point, there was a lot of agitated banter about agreeing to disagree. Very strange, very, very strange. But this is a very, very strange time. And we look around for sometimes very, very strange things to fill our time. And maybe we should think a little bit more about doing things that are more healthy rather than finding the goofy things that we would never have embraced in the past. But, hey, it's a time to try a lot of different things and see if you like them and find something that you think is a great, maybe productive, maybe not so productive, time filler, as it were, until we head back to the more normalcy that we hope to get in now months, I think, is the realistic aspect of it, not weeks, and see where we're at week by week. And next week, maybe there'll be a little more tangible things to talk about on Monday Musings, Danny SportsWrap. I tend to doubt it, but I'll find things to talk about. I hope I did a good job of it this time. And if you got any suggestions, I'm at danny@dannyclinkscale.com. I'll field any comments you have via email, and I'm on Twitter. Feel free to tweet at me, and I'd take up some topics like that. That'd be fun, too. So we will be creative, and I'll talk to you all through the week via podcast and have some blogs as well. More time to do that. So make DannyClinkscale.com and the Reasonably Irreverent podcast a regular stop for you. That'll put a smile on my face, and that'll be a good part of my therapy as we move forward.
We hope you enjoyed the latest Danny Clinkscale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Come back soon for something fresh and new. This podcast was made possible by our great sponsors like the law offices of Kenneth McRae, developing a unique strategy for your family law case. Divorce can be civil law, not civil war.